part where I feel that you haven't had as much experience in, and that's fine.
Right. Yep.
Because just by the way you worded that, I can tell she's already a painter, and she's got a little hesitation around writing. It's like we'll remove the blocks that you have around writing, and I'm sure you'll be writing in no time. Like that's what I get out of that. Now, to feel inspired to set goals and so that's the biggest energy that I get on this too. It's not so much goal setting and expressing yourself. It's to feel inspired to do so.
Exactly.
Okay.
Inspired, right.
So let's talk, let me just tune in on that for a minute, see what I can get for you on that. You know, with prescription medication, any kind of drug influence, there's a body chemistry, and it may be that your body chemistry needs to come back into balance. Something's coming up like that. Now, I was on, I've been painting for 20 odd years, intuitive painting, and then for a time, about a decade ago, I was convinced that I was depressed. I wasn't doing any of this kind of work, and so I was taking numerous anti-anxiety and depression medications. And, interestingly enough, there was a period of about 4 years where I didn't paint at all. So,
right.
So I'm getting some kind of correlation, and that's when I really realized years ago, checking with my doctor and doing what I need to do, and I started meditation, I started writing my book, that I let go of taking any of those medications. And now I, instead of like, maybe I get a little more highs and lows, if you will, but as a creative person,
right.
And there's moon energy and cycles of life that are perfectly natural, and you know what, it's certain, there's an ebb and flow to my creativity.
Right.
I mean, I'll go weeks at a time, and then just the other day I sat down and started writing my new book. I'm writing a brand new book. I just sat down and wrote straight for an hour. Thank goodness I have the heightened creativity to do that, where some doctor may call that some kind of manic depression or something like that.
Right.
It's like, no, I paint for 4 hours, I write books, I need an enormous amount of creative energy to do that, and I'm not going to take drugs to stifle up and mess up my body chemistry so I don't create the things that I'm here to create. Right? Okay. And with that natural feeling of not having any medication, to feel inspired, my inspiration, okay, this is when we take too much medication, or we feel like we need to, or we get something out of it, this is what I'm getting, to feel inspired. The natural inspiration that is within us somewhat gets shut down. You understand that? Because those things affect our mood, affect our ability to look at a sunset and have an emotion, because it's working against, killing pain and affecting parts of our brain and nervous system and everything else. It has a natural ability to feel inspiration on its own. Is this making sense?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, numbing. It's numbing.
Yep.
And for some reason, now I get with the television too, we're going to work through your block. Again, we're getting to know you this week. We're going to work through your client profile. I think next week we're going to start and work on your Foundation Wealth Center. We're going to go in and figure out what it is that you're trying to numb and what it is that you're afraid to feel. You understand?
Yeah.
Because there's some kind of block there. If I were to say, to your higher self, and what's Michelle's block about feeling inspired to set goals? Like, the first thing I get is that it would be a fear that maybe it wasn't enough, that your perfectionism streak would come through.
Right.
That you would do all this work and then it would be for nothing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat of an attachment to an outcome of what you're doing it and why.
Yeah.
Did you ever create things in the past and be a little bit disappointed when you didn't get the recognition or something that you thought you might have? Has that ever happened to you throughout your life in school, or any memory of that?
No, the creativity is a fairly new, I would say within the last 15 years, I think, and for the longest time, I felt like a frustration, because I never thought that I had any talent at being creative, especially, like, I love to paint, like, I love color, and then when I started to read The Course in Miracles, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You did too?
Well, like 10 years ago, because I was another
God,
person before that. Yeah.
So it said that God gave, talents, and so I just told myself that I had this desire. So and then I realized that I could draw and I could paint, and I didn't know that I could.
And did you need inspiration back then?
Done it as much as I would like, but what happened was while I was with Phil, my ex-boyfriend that got me into the drugs, and I think this is part of the perfectionism, my apartment became cluttered. I had clients give me stuff, people were cleaning out their closets, and I had 3 different people give me clothes and just stuff, and he was so codependent, and he wasn't allowed to come to my apartment complex. It's a long story, but he wasn't allowed to come here anymore, and so he never would let me come home. So I would come home and quickly do what I had to do and then leave. So my apartment became really cluttered and just full of crap, and I can't. And that's part of being it's overwhelming.
Right.
I can't be creative because there's shit
Right.
everywhere.
There's no room.
Just stuff, and so that's why with having to move, it's it's forcing me to deal with all these material possessions that are I feel they're just and I think that's where my perfectionism, I feel I need my environment to be perfect.
Yeah.
And then I can do my painting, and then I can do whatever, but I can't. And so that's why I turn the TV on, because it's I can't deal with it.
You got to block it out. Yeah.
Block everything out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was starting to say, when you first started painting and you loved it, because I'm looking again at what you wrote, to feel inspired to set goals. Now, one thing I don't do is I don't set a goal to be inspired to paint. So let's clear that up, because that has a little bit too much left brain thinking involved. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You following me? Because when you're reading A Course in Miracles and you're thinking, I have a God-given talent here, I'm going to try this, and you weren't thinking that I'm going to fail, right? You said there's no pressure here, I'm just going to do it, right?
Right.
Did you need to feel inspired, or were you just naturally inspired?
I was naturally inspired.
Did you have the perfect space to do it back then?
It was a lot less cluttered. I was living in Aspen.
Okay.
I had a lot less stuff.
You're freed up. Okay.
I had a lot more freedom. I was out in the mountains all the time, and I didn't have a lot.
Right.
I didn't have a lot.
And so now, the stuff and the energy, and everything is energy, and I've more or less recently, over the period of the past few years, slowly and methodically, I'm trying to think of all these words that, as far as cleaning out clutter. Now, I read a long time ago that artistic people attract clutter, so that made me feel a lot better, because I used to have piles of stuff in corners, and I'm a note taker, and I always have creative ideas. I just ran out of room. I mean, I could have been maybe a mini Hoarders on TV version, maybe not that bad, but one day I woke up and said, I just got to get myself together. And I can totally get it. I too was a TV watcher, and of course I was going through so many things in my life that I had to get through. Cleaning the house was the last on my list. It was just to emotionally make it through a day, just to live through another day with all the struggle. That housework came last. And so there's a lot of different kind of emotional reasons why we hold on to our stuff and why we don't tackle the mess. But I do feel like the mess in our lives that's represented by the clutter is a physical representation of the mess that's taking place in other areas. Would you agree?
Say that again, the physical what?
Like when you look around and you see the mess in your house, it's a physical manifestation of the emotional messiness that we're carrying within us to a certain degree. And so to just clean up the mess doesn't take care of the inner emotions that kind of produced that to begin with. Like, for instance, just you taking on all these things from other people that you don't want. Isn't that kind of representative of what you did with that boyfriend?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting, right?
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is even a
yeah.
deeper issue. I don't know if you're going to watch this back or take notes, but it's not just about you being inspired to set goals. It's not just about you cleaning your house. Where did it start? It started with you not having the boundaries that said, no, thank you. You were a pushover.
So I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we're hitting it. I am too.
Yep.
Okay,
yeah,
woohoo.
you're
High
so
five.
Right, the boundaries, yep.
Yep, okay. So,
Yeah.
you know, this is why I love the work, because we got to dig a little bit. And
Right.
and your guides and angels, my guides and angels are filling me and you in on what's really happening. So so don't beat yourself up that you don't have inspiration. How's that? How's that?
Right.
Take a good long look at the pattern that you may have held around taking on other people's things, whether, I mean, physically, all their stuff they don't want. Yeah, all their emotions they don't want. Oh, here, Michelle, would you like the bad day I just had? Right?
Right.
Would you like
Yeah.
the sound familiar?
Yeah.
Little insidious little ways, these little things. So you've been kind of a harbor for, and of course there's no room for your creativity there. I can see that now, can't you? There's no room.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's work on this one a little bit. So, again, we don't do anything without our permission. So now that you have awareness that you have had a tendency or a pattern to take on other people's stuff, there's also could be created discomfort for you to begin to say no and create more boundaries for yourself. What happens with typical people pleasing, right, is that we're afraid that we're going to lose out, or we don't have enough value on our own if we don't do what other people want us to do. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing we've got to work on a little bit. Because if you can take stock in that and really identify with that part of yourself, and at Course in Miracles, you forgive yourself, all is forgiven, there's really nothing to forgive, you understand? It was a lesson that you learned. You don't beat yourself up over it. You just go, you know what, I did this, and I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to donate these to the Salvation Army. I have 3 piles now: eBay, throw away, or donate. That's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going through my entire house again, and because these little patterns of, oh, I need this, it reminds me of such and such, or I might use that one of these days, or it's probably a combination of reasons why you took on all this stuff from other people, but also a little I might need this someday thing, or I invite you, and I always like to give my clients homework. I invite you for homework this week to really challenge what you really need. If you mention everything is energy, I want you to go through, are you naturally clearing all this stuff with your move? Are you just tossing stuff, or are you carrying around your mess from one place to another?
It stressed me out a little bit to making the decision of what to keep and what to throw away. I'm feeling tense over that.
Yeah, I think that this session will help you. Yeah.
With that?
This session will help you with that, because you're going to hear me in your ear. And you're going to be like, right?
Yeah.
Do I need this? Is this serving my highest good? Or is this preventing me? Am I being nice by keeping this? Or whatever it is that comes up for you. I want you to look at your stuff differently this week and make different decisions, healthier decisions for yourself about what you include. My husband, Dean, and my kids, I really have been on a cleaning rampage, and I think all of them have, been taking notice, and, looks good, Ma, and all that. And, I said to Dean, when we were looking in the living room, I said, every single thing in this room has good energy for me. I was like meticulous in my choice. I mean, it looks very clean and uncluttered, but the things that are there make me feel good.
Right.
You see? Because everything is vibration. I want to walk through that room and go, ugh,